Hello, I believe I came up with an idea on how to fix this so I could use it, the new brake holding system. There was a piston that went in this hole before. That was this one. So I made these pieces to replace those other ones that were too short. I put the holes in the wrong location, and the piece was down here when it should have been up there. So on these parts I made, I was going to have an inlet line come in from the back on each one. That's what I had on the other one. I had an inlet line back here to power that piston. But then I would have four additional lines underneath here getting in the way of everything. So I thought about it for a while. Then I was going to have an inlet come in on one side, go to the other side, and then just one inlet feeding that inlet and feeding that inlet. One hose here and one hose on the other side, which would be two hoses. Now that could have worked, but then I came up with, well, I got this bore in here, and it's already got a line feeding that bore, and the same thing on the other side. So if I could drill a hole here to feed into that bore, and then another one on the other side to feed into that bore, I could use that one inlet line to feed both of these, and that would condense the amount of tubing that I had down quite a bit. So that's what this one's got a O-ring groove on it, and there's a hole right here that feeds basically through this whole part, but mostly into this center hole. So the piston that was in there before, I have to cap this hole. So I cut the piston down, and I'm going to have it sit in the bottom. And then this plate unit that went on top here, I'm going to put a plug in there to plug that hole, so that way the air can't escape out the top and it can't escape out the bottom. And I could feed those two holes in there using that. I had to cross drill it here. I got to put a plug in that, but then it'll feed the back of that piston. See, I got a groove in the back of that. Well, it's not a groove, it's this hole. That feeds down up into the cylinder. And I got this cross slide hole with the O-ring groove that feeds off of that hole. So I made the pistons, put the O-ring grooves in them this morning. And I got a nut on the front that's going to act as a adjustment. So that's going to fit one on each side. It's going to fit like that. And I got to hold this piece down. See, before I had a piece attached here and here with a ball bearing that attached onto here. There was 4 of them, one in the front of this block, one in the back, then 2 on the other side. But that had to be removed because of this aluminum piece I put in here. Which is the clamp that's going to clamp down on to this groove that's inside of here. So I made this block. Now this block uses those 2 existing holes that were here to hold this plate down. That's these half moon holes. They're actually full circle, but you can only see half of it. It's for a cap screw. Then this bearing that's in here, there's a pin that goes through this piece. And that bearing is pressed onto that pin, and that pin is pressed into this block. And this block is going to be, after this piece is on and the plug is in the hole, I made the plug. It's inside this bag here somewhere. But then this piece gets bolted on top of that, and that fits in there. And then that bearing that's in there is going to ride against this edge and keep it down. And then the cap screws are going to capture this with those 2 existing holes that are in there. Then this spring is going to go through that hole. And that's going to push against this piece. So when the piston pushes against here, the spring will push it back off of the center piece so that it'll release. And then when the piston is activated, it pushes against that aluminum piece to make it clamp onto here. So I'm pretty sure that'll work. I'm going to I gotta get some O-rings for this. That's a 3/8 OD and it's a 3/16 ID, but I'm going to use a 1/4 inch ID O-ring. I got to get 4 of those. but it looks promising. So I got to put the O-rings onto the pistons, and put this together and put some air pressure on it. We'll test it out, and once this braking system or holding system is working, and we'll put the unit together and put it back in the frame and test it out. This is the only thing that's holding this whole project up right now, is getting this clamping system finished up. The other clamping system I had before, with the 3D printed with the little rubber stoppers on it, I mean, that it seemed to be pretty good at the time, but I had my doubts all the time I was doing that, and I think this is going to be a whole lot better. So this is where we are now. Yeah, these came out really good. I like that. I think that'll work out just great. All right. We'll see what it looks like when it's all together. All right, bye.